Hello, good evening, and welcome to the program. Many thanks for joining us. This is Daily Politics live on Trust TV. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you most kindly for joining us on the program tonight. Now, on the program tonight, we delve into the planned nationwide demonstration set for October 1st, spearheaded by various human rights groups protesting what they call the poor policies of President Ahmed Tinubu's administration. Now, despite heavy security measures in key cities across the country, these groups are determined to move forward, defying calls from political leaders to abandon the protests and trust the government. This second wave of protests since Tinubu took over office comes as many protesters from previous demonstrations in the country remain in detention, facing charges such as treason, while those affected by the looting and violence continue to rebuild. Join us on the program tonight to help dimension these issues is one of the promoters of the president, as well as the promoters of the protests, as well as a supporter of the growing criticism of the current administration. He's a former Minister of Youth and Sports. Barrister Solomon Dalung is joining us on the program tonight. And to set the conversation in motion, let's listen to the build-up to the October 1st nationwide protest as some of these groups re-echo their determination to go ahead with the protest.
Inflation is in double figure till we speak. Prices of goods and services are going up. Household shelters are going up. Nigerians are dying. People could not even get money to even care for their health because things are going more higher than that. And I'm calling on all Nigerians, especially people in Osun State, to come out and join us for this peaceful protest. We are October 1st, 2024, as declared by the stakeholder of Coalition of Concerned Nigerian Citizens as National Day of Survivor, with a fearless protest whereby organizations of different ideology and school of thought comes together to express our differences on economic hardship and anti-masses economic policy.
All right, the stage is set as some of these groups re-echo and double down the intention of not by the heightened security situation, as well as measures that have been put in place by the Nigerian police as well as other security authorities to prevent what many have described as violent protests back in August this year, when the End Governance Bad protests took over many parts of the country. Minister of Youth and Sports, Barrister Solomon Dalung, in just a moment to get the conversation underway. Join us again. All right, welcome back to the program. This is Daily Politics live on Trust TV. Here's a quick reminder that you can watch the show on the go by joining our Facebook and YouTube live stream so you don't miss out on the conversation. Speaking about the conversation, you might have heard that on October 1st, as Nigeria commemorates yet another anniversary, its 64th anniversary, there is a planned protest that will double down on what many in Nigeria say is the voice of the people expressing their frustrations about the state of the nation. In August this year, August 1st, and the days that followed, it was one of the experiences that rocked the Tinubu administration, which signposted the dissatisfaction of the majority of Nigerians when it comes to the state of the nation vis-a-vis their current means of livelihood. And October 1st, some of these organizers are hitting the streets yet again to demonstrate, to protest their dissatisfaction with the status quo, and to help us navigate what has been a very tricky situation from the August demonstrations to the planned October 1st protests is one person who was at the center of those videos that we just showed you, a former Minister of Youth and Sports, and of course an ardent critic of various governments in time past, and of course the current one. Join us on the program once again is Barrister Solomon Dalung. Barrister, good evening to you, and thank you most kindly for joining us on Daily Politics.
Well, good evening, Nigerians, and thank you for this opportunity once again.
Right. It appears we're going back for round two. What we saw in August left many Nigerians disheartened, dissatisfied, worried, and so on and so forth. What do you make of tomorrow's planned protest, October 1st? Is it going to make any difference, or is it just going to double the concerns that Nigerians have about the volatility of the security of this country?
But Nigerians are quite conversant with the type of government in place. And Nigeria, a government of tyranny, which has no listening ears to the plight and the predicament of the citizens. And so tomorrow's planned protest is a continuation of the 10 days protest of August to the 10th, following a 40 days notice given to the government with a 15-point demand. And after 4 days of the protest, the president addressed the country. And the president's statement was quite disconnected, indicating that, the president more or less was absent on duty and had no good knowledge of what actually was happening in the country, because he never even made reference to it until some few days later. So Nigerians will not fold their arms and allow this government force down debt through their trust, because the knee of the government is on the throats of Nigerians. They can't breathe. And so tomorrow's protest is a continuation of the struggle by the Nigerian people to breathe. And the struggle will continue until the government, which is a democratic government, gives listening ear, more so that the president has been demonstrating all his life. The last protest was in 2012 against Jonathan. And so we are only speaking the language he best understood.
And Barrister, just so I understand, what is your counter argument to those who say these protests, especially against the backdrop of what happened in August this year, is counterproductive? Whatever these demonstrators, whatever the organizers of these protests are hoping to achieve, it is making things worse, because we've seen the fallout of it. Destruction to businesses, to homes, people's means of livelihood were not just disrupted, but were upended by the unorganized nature of the protests that ended up becoming rather violent. What do you say to those who say these protests, as good intentioned as they are ill-timed and counterproductive?
Well, the definition of the scholars of counterproductivity is quite subjective. But to those of us who are in revolutionary politics, we are convinced that, the protests produce positive results. It is because of the protest that the government today has woken up to fight banditry. As we are talking now, our troops are in the front line combating bandits and criminal gangs. And Nigerians are standing.
Okay, it appears we're having a bit of a trouble with the connectivity to Barrister Solomon Dalung there, who's helping us navigate the conversation around the planned October 1st protest. We're going to work on that to get him back online so we can further the conversation. As you can imagine, the atmosphere is quite tense. Tomorrow being Tuesday, October 1st, is going to be Nigeria's 64th Independence Day anniversary. And of course, despite being a public holiday, the organizers of this protest say this is the perfect opportunity to drive home their message, which is that they are not happy with the status quo, with the situation of things, with the direction the country is heading, especially under the current administration. I believe we have Barrister Dalung back online. Let's try it again. You might want to continue with your train of thought there.
Saying was that the protest was one of the well-organized, peaceful protests in the history of this country, because there were enough orientation of
That's quite unfortunate. These things do happen, I suppose. The network connectivity there, it's a bit of a challenge. We're going to work on that to continue the conversation. To put it rather directly, the former Minister of Youth and Sports says these protests are well-timed, are aimed at, sending a clear message to those running the affairs of this country that Nigerians are not particularly happy with the current state of things, and they need things to change. And that is why, having factored in all the violence that was recorded during the August protests nationwide, it is still a no-brainer, according to the former minister, that Nigerians want to hit the streets yet again to deliver the same message to the Tinubu administration that they need to breathe. We're going to work on that connection to get the former Minister of Youth and Sports back on so we can further this conversation around the planned October 1st protest. Barrister, I believe we have you back again. It is rather unfortunate that we keep having these disconnections. But just on the point that you were making there, a lot of people would say you are no ordinary Nigerian. You have been in government, the immediate past government of Muhammadu Buhari, where Nigerians have had to endure 2 recessions with no single protest. The one notable protest that was recorded during the Buhari administration was during the NSAS back in 2020, and much of that was in relation to police brutality. So if you were one of the beneficiaries of the patience of Nigerians, why are you asking Nigerians to double down on this notion of civil disobedience by showing the Tinubu administration that they're not happy with the state of things? Bearing in mind that the administration is less than 2 years.
I think this argument of time for the administration does not at all make sense in this country. We have a leader in this country who led Nigeria for only 6 months, and he led legacies that till date we are benefiting, all achieved in 6 months. And so when we begin to try to create reasons to justify failure of leadership, I mean, it sounds absurd. This president, from the day of inauguration, warned Nigerians. He said, "Don't pity me. I looked for the job and I got it." So I don't know where the army of those people pouring pity for the government when the president encouraged Nigerians not to pity him. President Muhammadu Buhari's government, which I was part of the government from 2015 to 2019. We took Nigeria out of recession in 1 year. From 2015 to 2016, we moved Nigeria out of recession. Other development about the NSAS protest which took place, I wasn't in government. And so you are bringing it now. I don't know how you want to connect it to me, but I know that there was a mismanagement of that protest by the government, which most of us condemn it, because it led to a loss of lives and unnecessary unleashing violence on citizens, which was quite an undemocratic credentials of any democratic government. So to me, I think protest is a legitimate right of citizens recognized by law. Section 39, 40, 41 is very, very clear about protest. Section 84 of the Police Act provides guidance as to how police should protect protesters. And so, if protest was something illegitimate, I don't think even you would have even come today to discuss it. Because, I mean, this tyrannically oriented regime would have come after you and shut down the station. But you are discussing it because it's a constitutional right. So I think Nigerians are exercising their rights because nobody is disputing that there is hunger in the land. Nobody is disputing that there is poverty in the land. Nobody is disputing that the insecurity is monumental.
Yeah, and Barrister, if I could just jump in there. Like I did say earlier, there are many critics who are watching this development and who say these protests, as well-intentioned as they are, could further lead to a breakdown of law and order. It could overheat the polity, and as we've seen back in August, if we're going to learn from our mistakes, while you say it was properly organized, there was a proper orientation of people. We saw foreign flags being flown in Kaduna and in Kano. We saw the devastation, how people's homes were looted. Surely, there are some mistakes that we cannot afford to repeat, but you appear to be all in on the October 1st nationwide protest.
Well, if there are mistakes, now that is where government is supposed to learn from it. Because government is the suspect in the whole concept of protest. If government has conducted itself as a responsible government expected by the Constitution and law, the citizens wouldn't demonstrate. And government also, before the protest, had released statements. The police, the army, they said they have reports of hoodlums trying to hijack the protest. But they did not do anything to arrest the hoodlums whom they have report about, intelligence about them. They did not even stop them. And there were peaceful protests where people were hired by some politicians in government, and they were sharing money even in Abuja, in other places. So I think this advice you are giving, as well-intended as it is, should be directed to the government and politicians who don't want to discharge their responsibilities or mandate to the people and will prefer to criminalize the protest by hiring people and giving them 5,000 to come and cause mayhem. So I think we should all lean our voices to appealing to them to allow a peaceful protest, because a peaceful protest is possible. When politicians, when their mandates are taken over, they organize protests that are peaceful. But when they fail to discharge their responsibilities and people are trying to hold them into account, it becomes violent. So I think this narrative should be properly targeted to the government. If there are any lessons to learn, it's for them to conduct themselves and behave themselves and listen to Nigerians, not being adamant and nonchalant and turn around to say, oh, we have experiences and lessons to learn.
The government says there are agents of destabilization who are more than happy to not only use their influence but their resources to destabilize the current administration, and that is why these protests are gaining a lot of ground. Bearing in mind that the president came into power with the slimmest of margins in the 2023 presidential election, so it's safe to say politically there are more people that would not want him to sit on that seat. Do you see that side of the argument, that there are people who are deliberately trying to destabilize Nigeria, and these protests present them with an easy platform to do so?
No, there are no deliberate people who are trying to destabilize Nigerians. But it is factual that the president only won the election with 36%. And anybody who wins election with less than 50% has a responsibility to mobilize people to support him. So the president is not galvanizing support. Rather, he is further dividing the country by appointing only the Emiloko agents into government. And therefore, he is further isolating himself. So the president is the one deliberately creating the atmosphere of antagonism by Nigerians, not Nigerians antagonizing him. Because if Nigerians didn't wanted him to rule, having won election with 36%, there could have been mass protests all over the country to truncate the process. But Nigerians trusted democracy and went to court. And after the court, they accepted their fate and continued their lives. But the president's awful economic policies kept strangulating lives out of Nigerians. And this is why Nigerians are pushing back. So I think the president and his team should be quite fair and honest to Nigerians. It
appears we've lost our connection again to Barrister Solomon Dalung, who was trying to make a point there about the question of whether this protests align with what is best for Nigeria as a country, especially given all of... Okay, I think we do have Barrister Dalung back online now. Barrister, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah, please go ahead.
And so I was concluding that the president, should be more charitable in his administration and go out of his way to get more Nigerians on board so that he can unite the country, because he didn't win the election with anything less than 36%. So more Nigerians did not vote him. And he had to adopt a more fatherly posture of reaching out to Nigerians, not this grandstanding of a Miloko and appointing only family members and political associates and further dividing the country. So if he continues like this, he has himself more to blame than Nigerians, because, Nigerians love him much.
Right. And Barrister, just to double down on that particular point, there are a lot of people who are saying this hyper-focus on the presidency or on the president is not logical, because we've seen at various points in time different interventions to address the impact or to address the mitigating effects of the removal of fuel subsidy. And many Nigerians are asking the question, why aren't the state governors bearing their own brunt, or at least taking their own share of the responsibility of this particular challenge that we're dealing with? All of the states have more than at least 40% of their FAC allocations increase. There's the 10 billion naira injection as part of the palliative for the CNG buses, the trucks of rice that the federal government says it has distributed across board. All of these things. Why is the frustration of the organizers of these protests focused only on the presidency? What about the governors? Don't they get to feel the frustration of the people?
Well, the president and the governors they conspired against Nigerians. When he was giving them these monies and this palliative, they never announced it. Until when Nigerians started demanding for accountability, that they now said, oh, we have done this, we have done that, we have done this. All this is just hypocrisy. The president conspired with the governors so that they share these palliatives so that they can be hoarded to be used in 2027 to buy Nigerians. So they thought Nigerians were going to be silent and quiet. And since Nigerians started asking questions, they now embark on this blame game. If the president was very sincere in tackling this issue of the backlash of his economic policy, why didn't he establish a national palliative or a food distribution committee appointing credible Nigerians who could have collected this just like Abacha did during the PTF and directly distribute food to Nigerians? And he was giving governors money quietly. He was giving them palliative quietly. They were stocking it in their warehouses. And then at the end of the day, when Nigerians are now suffocated with hunger and begin to ask questions, now sort of, why are you putting the pressure on me? Why not the governors? Did you tell us?
Yeah,
The Minister of Information has never spoken on it.
yeah.
There was no time when they were sharing this thing that they televised for Nigerians to see. If they have done this, we would have also directed our focus on the governors. But he gave them quietly because they were the people who manipulated the process of his primaries quietly. So it was a compensation for them. So why is he trying to use us to settle compensation?
Barrister,
why is he trying to use Nigerians?
Yeah, Barrister, just to chime in there, we're talking about 36 governors of the Federation, and the composition is PDP, APC, and the Labour Party. I'm not sure all of them played a part in his emergence as the APC candidate in 2023. But just to double down on certain salient points, how many times have we seen protests actually impact the polity? Because while you say that Nigerians are trying to send a clear message to the Tinubu administration, his message over and over again has been very clear. There is no miscommunication about the direction of this administration. They are saying this pain, this challenge that Nigerians are going through, that are experiencing, is necessary for the reforms that need to take shape so that we can all enjoy what's to come. So it's safe to say that he's not going to change his tactics so far. However, I want you to weigh in on some of the changes that the administration is trying to make, because the presidency this past week says there's going to be a cabinet reshuffle. Doesn't that suggest that the president is listening to the yearnings, aspirations, as well as frustrations of Nigerians?
There is nothing on the ground that there's no policy or any change that Nigerians should expect. We are now over a year and a half, and there is nothing on the ground. So there is at all nothing. The only thing that is on the ground which has actually taken place is that the president has bought a new aircraft. The president has also bought another new armored Cadillac. The president has bought a yacht. The president has also bought SUVs for his ministers and members of the National Assembly. The president has also renovated the house of his vice president with 21 billion. These are the changes that has taken place. There is no any significant change. There is no any reforms. If there is any reforms on the ground, it's the reforms for their own betterment and change of their comfort and luxury. There is no any program on the ground. I challenge anybody, because what are the indices of any change that has happened? Can you tell me whether inflation has gone down? What of poverty? What of unemployment? So what reforms actually are you talking about? For me, I think the reforms is the one that, in the next cabinet change, they will approve for the president. Now that he has gotten a yacht, he will also need a bicycle. He will need a donkey, presidential donkey. All this they will approve for him. But I think there is nothing there for Nigerians at all. There is no reform on the ground.
Barrister,
because if there were reforms, the period of 6 months is enough for the government to have embarked on agricultural transformation. How many months does it take to produce a maize? How many months does it take to produce cassava? How many months? There are 3 months crop, there are 6 months crop. Government would have embarked on rapid and robust agricultural production of food, and by now would have seen the impact. What we're only having on ground is that we're having them changing their cars, renovating their houses, whether in Lagos or in Abuja. People are dying of hunger, and you are telling me that there is a reform. Yes, there is a reform on the ground. A reform in favor of people in government, but not fellow Nigerians.
Right. Barrister, a lot of people would say if we just juxtapose what Nigerians went through in the first tenure of the Barr administration that you were a part of, 2 recessions, and of course, Nigerians have had to deal with a lot of policies that fail to really impact the polity, whether it's the Anchor Borrowers program and all of the other reforms that the Barr administration tried to achieve in its first term in office. Wouldn't you say that it's a bit premature, 16 months down the line of a 4-year tenure? Are you specifically saying that the problems that Nigerians are dealing with today is 100% the creation of the Tinubu administration?
70% of Nigerians are even praying for Buhari. I'm telling you this. If Tinubu thinks that Buhari's government created this problem, let him take Nigeria back to 29th May by 6 a.m. 2023. Nigerians were far, far, far better than all these rhetorics. If Buhari created problem, which I have said many times, that Buhari's government failed, that was why Tinubu aspired to make changes. So we will not be talking about too early or too soon. They asked him during campaign, what will he do when he assumed? And he said, hit the ground running, hit the ground running, hit the ground running. It is 1 year, 6 months or 7 months, the ground has not been hit running. Please stop this hypocrisy of deceiving Nigerians. Buhari has failed Nigerians. That's why he's elected. So he is not going to be blaming Buhari. Buhari was even far, far better than him, because in the past 4 years of Buhari, he didn't buy any new vehicle. I mean, the first thing this government did was to buy new SUVs for themselves. Even the loan Buhari collected 500 billion for the chocozaba of palliatives for the withdrawal of fuel subsidy was shared between the executive, judiciary, and the legislature. So what are we actually saying? I think we should be more fair and charitable to Nigerians with the situation they find themselves. But I'm not here to defend Buhari's government for failure, because I have said it was a monumental failure, having enjoyed that type of support, but he failed to take Nigeria to the promised land. And it is not any excuse for anybody today to come and take Nigeria now down, down, down into the abyss and begin to sing hallelujah of blame.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about the events of October 2024 in the aftermath of the protests that started on August 1st. You're well aware that some of these protesters were prosecuted by the government for their involvement in that protest, with connections to a lot of illegality. What are your thoughts about that development impacting what may or may not happen on October 1st, 2024?
Well, the matter is before the court, and as a lawyer, it will be sub judice for me to make any contributions on an ongoing matter that is before the court. Let them go and produce the evidence there. The judges are there. But we cannot speculate here on a matter that is already been prosecuted. So, because if we speculate here, it will be sub judice, it will go to, I mean, undermine the trial process. So I think it is far, far better for the courts to be allowed and the government to continue with their prosecution. We wait for the outcome of their judgment.
I was asking that question because a lot of people would say it will take the wind out of the sail of the momentum for the planned protest for October 1st. But I understand your point there. So let's talk about some of the concerns raised by people who were at the receiving end of the violence, the disruption that we saw in the August 2024 End Bad Governance protests. People's shops that were looted, people's homes that were destroyed, those who lost their loved ones, and so on and so forth. How do you address their concerns about why this protest is not necessary?
Well, to those who lost their properties, I mean, it's unfortunate that we have irresponsible political culture where it's very clear that it wasn't the protesters, because there had been no any protesters that have been inducted. All these were the agents of politicians who were trying to discredit the protests. But the protesters conducted themselves peacefully. And we had so many of the peaceful protesters that were killed by overzealous policemen. We have videos in Kano where a police officer was shooting um, peaceful protesters for their. I will not blame the press. I mean, for their downplaying the issue, because they are more interested in trying to paint a picture of, I mean, the evil of protest. But if protests were that evil, would the Constitution provide for it? This is a right in the Constitution. And those advocating have not gone to ask National Assembly to amend the Constitution. Can you take a right given to a citizen by a Constitution? The same law provides that those protesters should be protected. Why did the police refuse to protect the protesters? Why? And they were shooting them. So it was a casualty on both sides, and unfortunate for those who have the martyrs that have lost their life for the struggle of Nigeria. May their soul rest in peace. For those whose properties were looted, it's unfortunate that we have irresponsible leadership that could not protect our properties. But that is not to say that protests, or that is to say that protests should be ignored, and Nigeria should allow a right given to them by the Constitution to be taken away by irresponsible government. No. The police have responsibility to protect the properties of Nigeria. Right. It is not the duty of the protesters. It's the duty of the police. And even if there were protesters who went out of their way, the police are supposed to arrest them and prosecute them. But you can't take the right of protest.
Okay.
Because it's a constitutional right.
Right. And Barrister, is this a continuation of what happened in August, or from your understanding, is this an entirely different movement?
Well, tomorrow's protest is a continuation of the earlier protest announced by the End Bad Governance Coalition, which is a coalition of different civil society groups that are advocating for good governance. So tomorrow's protest is called by the same organization, which is more or less like an extension of the earlier protest, which has not yielded the desired result because government has not attended to the demands of the protesters. And so they are continuing, they will be continuing tomorrow.
Barrister, October 1st, as we know, is the most famous national holiday in Nigeria because of the journey of this nation, which is going to be 64 years. Why taint this commemoration with what could possibly be a sour point in time, especially going by recent history?
Well, that is the day that created this unfortunate scenario that we're dealing with. So there is nothing memorable about it. If independence on the 1st of October 1960 means Nigerians 64 years later will sleep with hunger, Nigerians cannot sleep in their houses, bandits are kidnapping them and selling them in the bushes like animals, the women are raped before their wives, before their husbands and children, and people are unable to even pay hospital bills, then what is memorable about 1st October? I mean, 1st October becomes, I mean, a day that Nigerians will always remember it as the day that even kick-started their suffering. So there is nothing memorable about the day because it has produced nothing. Rather, 64 years later, a dollar is 1,800 and something per naira. 64 years later, we only have children of the rich going to school. The children of the poor could not go to school. So do you think independence means anything to the child of a poor man in my village who has been thrown out of school for so many years? Which independence are you talking about? Independence is for those who are managing the resources of this country for their benefit.
Yeah, Barrister, you seem to see things as black and white, but as we understand it in life and in society, there are the gray areas. Is there anything positive that this particular administration deserves credit for? I mean, even the insecurity that you're talking about right now, there have been noticeable progression in terms of the pushback, in terms of regaining some level of control, whether it's in the northwest or it's in the northeast. Is there a version of your analysis that is saying that the glass is half full instead of half empty?
No, but you see, you heard what I said. I'm not a blind critic. I pick issues. I love the president. I love Nigeria so much. But I dislike injustice. And I dislike where leaders treat citizens as if they are slaves. This government had made, some progress, which I will not, I will concede. Especially, the local government autonomy, which it challenged in the Supreme Court, is a commendable effort, which I commended the president. That was what we wanted Barr to do, which he couldn't do. So it's something commendable. The current war, which I told you from the beginning, that Nigerians are with our troops because they are at the front line and they are recording considerable progress. And I even prayed here for them. So it is not that there are things that I have not appreciated that they have done well. I've also said, well, they also have tried because, there is a minister who was removed in office for corruption of attempting to transfer 380 million, which the AFCC later told us that, yes, they are investigating her for 72 billion. And there were also movement of 40 billion in 1 day, 2 days, which are also achievement of this government. So it is not like I'm saying they have not tried. They have tried in some places, and they have also tried in their own interest in some places. The renovating of the house of the vice president is an achievement because, the vice president of Nigeria now has a 21 billion apartment. That's an achievement. The president has bought a presidential aircraft. It's a commendable achievement. He can now travel with 200 men in his aircraft. Yeah, it's an achievement. He has bought an armored Cadillac. It's also an achievement. Okay. So have I not commended it now? It's not an empty cup.
I have a sense that most viewers would pick up on that sarcasm, but also to drive on this particular point about October 1st, the president is billed to address Nigerians by 7 a.m. On October 1st. How open-minded are you to listen to the words of the president? Is there a chance that he might say something that would make you reconsider hitting the streets tomorrow to be part of the protest?
Well, I'm going to listen to my president with an open mind. I am naturally a very fair and open-minded person. And I appreciate human nature. So I'm going to listen to the president. If the president in his speech convinces me, I will not be out. I'm going to hit the street. I will give him the benefit of doubt. Because we have all been looking forward, Nigerians have been looking forward to this benefit of doubt. Let him be a father of the nation. But it cannot be that he will ignore Nigerians, 200 and something million people. Even if he were right, there is something fatherly in the attitude of a leader to try to show compassion to the citizens. But the dismissive manner with which members of his government will tell us, oh, suffering is not only limited to Nigeria, they are suffering elsewhere. This has been the language of the president's men. I sympathize with the president because he's alone. To be very honest, I have been in government. I have served with the president. I was very close to the president. I have a very good knowledge of government. He is alone. Because members of his government are not even defending the government. There is dead silence as if there's no government. So I will wait for Mr. President tomorrow. I'm going to listen to his speech. I will try and be very fair to him. In fact, I will pray to God to also work on my mind again to be a bit fairer. Let God to bring down the level of fairness so that I can listen to him.
Right.
Maybe we can understand ourselves better, and maybe Nigerians can also understand him better.
And what can he say to persuade you not to come out for tomorrow's planned protest? If he says, be patient, I understand your pain, the same stuff that he has been saying over the past few months, is that going to be good enough?
No, it wouldn't be good enough. What I will expect the president to do is to come up with a very radical position on the withdrawal of subsidy. Even if he is going to make an empty promise, we will trust him for that. But ignoring it as if the president of Nigeria is a conqueror of Nigeria. No, he's a father of the nation. That's why he's a commander-in-chief. That's why he's head of state. That's why he's the executive president of Nigeria.
Yeah. And finally, before we go, Barrister, how big do you expect this protest to be? And to your understanding, is this going to be a one-day affair? What is the plan here?
No, you see, you don't predict revolutionaries. You don't. Because we may end up even with no protest at all. You don't predict them. Because just like you are talking, we've also learned how to deal with this government. Because they have brought their joker on how they deal with protests. So we are also more informed and we have good knowledge of what they are up to. But what I expect to happen tomorrow is more or less a more ceremonial protest to indicate that, look, 1st October, which is the day Nigeria got independence, we have not recorded much progress as expected. Countries with which we got independence before them had moved forward. So even if we are going to mourn as protest for that we've not made progress, it is a protest. But because of the way we have understood the word protest, we always associate it with violence. But I think that is something unique and different that will be on the table tomorrow as to 1st October. Even the organizers of the protest, who are predominantly youth, are also, and so they have behind their hearts understanding of the situation. But I believe that tomorrow will not be protest if government does not review its stand.
Okay. Barrister Solomon Dalung, as always, a pleasure talking to you about these issues. Thank you most kindly for joining us on Daily Politics, and we hope to circle back to this conversation depending on how tomorrow turns out. Thank you most kindly for your time.
No, thank you very much. We also wish that tomorrow will turn in favor of Nigerians, because everybody is dragging for his own interest. So that the president will also be a father figure tomorrow, and the country moves forward.
Thank you most kindly for joining the conversation on Daily Politics. That is our conversation with the former Minister of Youth and Sports, Barrister Solomon Dalung, on the planned nationwide protest that is billed to take place on October 1st, 2024. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you most kindly for joining us. As always, feel free to be a part of our growing social media community. Join us online, like our Facebook pages, and also visit our website, trusttv.com, for all the latest. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. From myself and the rest of the team, thank you for your time and good night.